When you look at the history of women across generations, from the 1950s to Gandhi, you can see a non-transformation from how do I fulfill social expectations toward who am I and what kind of life do I want to create. And the question is, what invisible structures are shaped in? What's the meaning of independent woman? Women born in 1950s, they lived through strong family obligations, collective values, and survived challenges. A good woman meant someone who endured, someone who cared for the family, and someone who sacrificed. The internal belief, my value comes from what I give. They became the generation of a responsibility, but many were really asked, what do you want for yourself? Women born in 1960s, they experienced a rapid social change and learned to be independent, to endure, to solve problems. The inner belief became, I have to be strong. They carried enormous strength, but many forgot they also deserved the care. Women born in 1970s, they stood between two worlds, traditional female roles and modern professional identities. The inner conflict. I want to prove myself, but I'm afraid of losing connection. They were among the first generations to deeply experience the conflict between family roles and personal identity. Women born in 1980s, they gained more education and career opportunities. They began asking, who am I? What kind of life do I want? But society still expected them to be successful, beautiful, independent, and responsible for family. Their conflict. I want to become myself, but I also want to be accepted. Women born in the 1990s, they began questioning, why must women follow a certain path? Why should life look a certain way? For the first time, many women shifted from how do others see me to how do I see myself. The movement from being evaluated to understanding oneself. Women born after 2000, they grew up in the information age, the era of diversity, the era of personal expression, the value boundaries, personal feelings, meaning, and the inner growth. They believe I can define myself, but they face new challenges, social media comparison, perfectionism, and the prayer to constantly present themselves. The real question becomes, how do we remain authentic in a world where everyone is watching? Many people think women's limitations came from external restrictions, but the deeper reality is social structures often end or inward. This is one of the least discussed forms of limitation. Many women grow up hearing, wait until you are older, wait until you are more mature, wait until you get married, wait until your children grow up. These sentences may sound like advice, but over time, they create a psychological structure. Selfhood is always postponed. A hidden belief begins to fall. The current me is not yet ready to become my complete self. This is not only about limiting actions, it's about making women feel that the real life begins later. A woman may finish her education, build a career, take care of a family, and still secretly believe, waiting until someday I will finally start living myself. The first step toward becoming a subject is realizing life is already happening now. Most people think freedom begins with choice, but perhaps we need to ask a deeper question. Before we choose, who created the desired self? From childhood, many girls are not simply taught how to behave. They are taught what kind of life is desirable, be loved, but lead to give first, be successful, but not intimidating, be independent, but not threatening, be attractive, but not too valuable, be powerful, but still acceptable. Over time, desire becomes confused with approval. A woman no longer asks, what do I want? She asks, what kind of woman will be valued if I become thus? This is a deeper structure not. Society suppresses women's desires, but society participates in producing women's desires. The most invaluable form of power is not saying no. It's making people desire what keeps it inside a certain structure. A woman may spend her entire life achieving things she never consciously chose. This is why liberation is not simply allow women to pursue their dreams. The deeper liberation is, can woman distinguish between a desire that comes from herself and a desire that comes from the lady to be recognized? This is perhaps the most invaluable structure. Girls are told what kind of life is worth wanting. Don't be too aggressive. Don't create conflict. You are the complete woman when you're married, but a person who is complex, ambitious, and deeply thoughtful cannot always make everyone comfortable. Society often simplifies this kind of women who don't fit expectations, too emotional, too difficult, too sensitive. Therefore, the biggest challenge for women is not becoming someone everyone likes. It's believing I'm already a complete human being. Women are not simply shaped into a certain identity. They are often trained into a system of continuous self-monitoring. When Simone de Beauvoir discussed the independent woman, she didn't mean women must become like men. She didn't ask women to reject femininity, love, family, or motherhood. True independence means I can choose to become a daughter, a partner, a mother, or I can choose another path. But the choice comes from my own subjectivity, not from social expectations. An independent woman is not someone who leads nobody. She is someone who can connect deeply with others without losing herself. Roles are choices, not identities. It's not I must prove that I'm better than others, but I no longer need to prove my worth in order to deserve existence. Perhaps the task of a generation is not to reject the women who came before us. It's to understand them, because the sacrifice of the 1950s, the strength of the 1960s, the struggles of the 1970s, the search of the 1980s, and the awakening of the 1990s, and the creation of Gandhi, together form the history of women, become conscious subjects. We are not here to escape the past. We are here to transform what the past gave us and answer a deep question. If I remove every external expectation and judgment, who do I choose to become?